In this video, we will look at how to add customers and sites inside the Schedule Express platform. So I want to start off by saying that the names of the labels that I'm using here may differ for you depending on your industry. One of the things we offer is we allow you to customize the names of the data components that you set up. But what I'm going to explain this is that it's really just the elements from the shift that are not the employee or the date. So let me just open up one of these shifts here. So you have employees, dates, times. Down here, I have customer and site. That's the labels I have. You may only use one of these two fields, and you may actually call them something different. So if you're in hospitality, you may call these events. You may call this a location. You may call this a client instead of a customer. There's all different ways to label it, but it's really a main data element that its purpose is to tell the employee where they're going for the shift. Where is that? Whether that's an actual physical location, whether that's a room location inside of a building or whatnot. So that's the purpose of what I'm going to show you how to do. So to do that, there's an icon here on the left. Now it'll say manage with the name of whatever you call it. So in my case, it's manage sites, and it's this icon right here. So it's right below the manage employees icon. So let's go in there. And this is what it looks like. So this shows you, in my case, it shows me all my customers and the sites associated to those customers. So you can have, in our system, you can have, a customer with one site, two sites, or more than two sites associated to it. All right. So for example, the first one here is called default customer, and attached to that is default site. So it's got this little hierarchy set up inside here that you can manage. So there's a couple things to know about this. So number one is, how do you create a site? Well, there's a create site button up here. So all you do is click create site. Let's call it a new demo site. And what happens is you now need to pick what customer it belongs to. We have 4 customers to choose from. Let's associate that to new demo customer. And we're going to click save. And it's telling me that I have errors. I actually haven't filled in the address for this particular location. So if I wanted to set up a new site, if I have the geo-fencing feature turned on, I need to make sure I fill this in. If you don't have that turned on, you won't need to do this part. So I'll go ahead and just plug in an address for now, because I do have it turned on. But if you have that feature disabled, then you won't have to worry about this. Okay, so let's do that. And then we just click the refresh, and that actually grabs the coordinates of where that is, and it sets it up. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Now click save, and we've added that successfully. Okay, so we've got a new site, new demo site, and it belongs to right here underneath new demo customer. So I've added my new site. Now, if I want to edit that, I simply just select it and go to update. Takes me right back in there, and I can change anything on it. Okay. Now, one of the other questions you might have is, well, how do I create these customers? Well, that's also available here, but it's up here on the wrench. You go here and say create customer. That creates the top level of the hierarchy. So let's go with FG Enterprises is my new customer. Okay. And now I can fill in the address information if I want to, but I don't have to. I'll click create. Now you're going to notice it doesn't show up in this list, and there's a reason for that. There's no sites associated to it, so it's not actually a valid record yet. It needs to have at least one site for it to be valid. So I'm now going to add a site. I'm going to call this FG Site 1 active, and I'm going to assign it to FG Enterprises, and then I'm going to put in some address here. Let's go with this. And we're going to go with Pennsylvania in the US. And it went ahead and it grabbed an address for me, so I'll just use that. The geolocation is very nice, because if you just plug in an address, like in a city, it'll actually try and find that with a Google search and try to find the best address. Of course, putting in The zip is a very important thing to get a more accurate location. And you can also go in here yourself and just put in the actual latitude and longitude if you know what those are. But I'm just using the tool here to do it quickly. Save that. And now that I've saved a site, let's go back. Let's go back, and we are going to go to the new FG Enterprises, FG Site 1. That's it right there, okay? So we added it. Now, similar to what you can do in the Employees module, if you've seen that video, you can select multiple sites. So you can click on it once to select it, or you can actually do this. And you can now make an update to both these sites at once. So if you want to set the phone number to be the same for both those sites, you can do that. If you want to change the address or anything like that, you can change this stuff. If you want to change the bill rate, you can do that by multi-selecting. Okay. So that's how to add, that's how to update. How do you delete? Well, if you're going to delete, I would recommend you don't usually delete. What you would normally do is you can just update it, and you can change the status to be inactive. That way, if you have shifts for that particular location, you're not going to get rid of those shifts. You don't, you're going to keep them, but this will just make it, deactivated and won't show up on your list anymore. If you want to delete it, you have to make sure you have no shifts in the system for the site. And you can go up here to the top right and say delete, and you can delete that. Once you delete it, it can't be undone, so you have to actually click confirm or delete here to actually delete it. Okay. But again, I wouldn't recommend deleting unless you made a mistake and just don't want this in here. But if you have shifts for it, never delete it. Just make it inactive and retain your history, because there's no point in losing that just to get it off of your list here. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind is you do have a filter here called status, so you can do all, active, or inactive. So I'm on all right now, but if you look for inactives, then that will show up only. And you can also search for customers and sites too. So up in here, if you were looking for, like if I was looking for my FG Enterprises, if I start typing FG, I can find it very quickly and filter just to see that particular customer. I can just hide everything else. Okay, so let's unselect there and apply and show everything again. And the other thing you can do is up here, if you're looking for a certain site, let's look for AZ site. Type in AZ, push enter, and it found the site that most closely resembles my search. AZ, gets me AZ site. All right, so those are some of the basic features. Now the other thing that is nice is you can actually customize what is displayed in this grid as well. So I've got contact phone, email, address, and all this stuff, but let's say I didn't want to see the city, or let's say I wanted to see more fields. These three little dots you can use to customize the view. So if I go to here and I take away the country, click apply, the country disappears. So if I want to bring it back, go in here, apply it, and it comes back. And you can play with this and decide on what information you want to see inside of your grid, okay? So you can sort of change the way you want to see this. The other thing you can do is you can rearrange these too if you really want to. So if you want the address to be here and you want the city to be here, you can move them around and reorganize them a little bit as well if you want to change your view. So keep that in mind. All right, now a couple more things with the site management. If you go into the site and you update it, there are a number of different fields you can update in here. So obviously the general is the stuff you must input, which is the site name essentially and the customer that it belongs to. But then you can fill in stuff like the contact phone, the address, the city, the state. I'll scroll down here. You can set up the geolocation, the actual GPS coordinates. You can turn on features for GPS tracking and things like that. There's a separate video we'll have on geofencing if you want to look at the details of what these all mean and how to set those up. So I'd encourage you to look on our YouTube channel for those. Also down here we have max hours. You can set up maximum hours that the site would be allowed to have in a given day, a given week, a given month. So for example, if I chose weekly, I can then choose, let's say it's 55 hours for the week. That's the max hours I want to schedule for that site. If you put a schedule together and exceed this value, you'll get a warning in the system. It'll tell you you've exceeded the weekly max, and you can choose whether you want to proceed or override that. But that'll be just a warning for you that you've kind of exceeded your maximum in this case for the week. And then you also have bill rates. So you can come in here and you can say, I'm going to add a bill rate. If someone works at that site and they do service number 1, then the billing rate is $60 an hour or $30 an hour, whatever it is. You can plug that in. Is there overtime? Maybe there is. Maybe you have a special overtime rate. Maybe you have a special double overtime rate. Stat means holiday rate. So maybe you have a special holiday rate. Maybe it's, I don't know, $46. So you could put that in. And other. There's another rate option we have for other hours. And I don't know, let's say you wanted to use that, you can plug that in. Of course, leaving it 0 is totally fine as well. And then don't forget to set the effective date. The rate itself doesn't take effect until your effective date kicks in, and it'll always default to today's date. Okay, so I'm going to click Save, and that's all there is to it. I've updated the site. All right, so that wraps it up for this video. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will talk to you again next time.